So welcome back. I hope you had a great break. And of course, it's going to be really a tough act to follow after Marcus. But let's give you a little bit of updates of how the school is going. And starting with, okay, it's my first reunion, as I said before, but it's been very exciting to see the energy that effectively, despite my allergies, it fed me really with energy, and it's been fine. And it's been wonderful to see so many familiar faces. Of course, more importantly, I hope you have been reconnecting and having a great time. And please come back even in non-reunion years. You don't have to come only for reunion years. So I'll give you a little bit of updates about faculty, leadership, and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to start with some sad news. And I'm sure everybody in this room is familiar with Ed Roberts. Because, of course, Ed was what we call a lifer at MIT, because he did his undergraduate studies in 1958. Then he did 2 master's degrees, his PhD, and he was on the faculty till he passed away. In fact, he passed away, was it a Monday or a Tuesday? And he was getting ready for his class, and he was preparing his next trip. So, people like Ed, you do not meet very often. In fact, probably, they are not created like that anymore. But it's been a pleasure to be his colleague, and I know his legacy is really going to stay with us for many, many years to come through his contributions in entrepreneurship, through the Trust Center, through the courses he created, through the TIES group, and so much more. And actually, more importantly, through all of you that he had as his students for many years. Now, we have some changes in leadership, and I want to start with our Deputy Dean for Faculty and Research, Michael Cusamano. And Michael is actually a member of the TIES group. TIES, for those of you that don't remember, at MIT, we either go with initials or with numbers, nothing else. So it's technological innovation, entrepreneurship, and strategic management. And he has been at the dean's office as a deputy dean, in charge of all the faculty, in charge of the research for the past 4 years. For the past few months, I've been working very closely with Michael, and I know how meticulous he is, how his heart is in the right place, trying to help the school, trying to do new initiatives for the faculty and for spurring new research. But he's taking a sabbatical, a well-deserved sabbatical, July 1st, and he's actually going to spend most of his time in Japan. But he told me he'll be in touch, and he's happy to help even from afar. Now, who is going to take his place? Well, Michelle Hanlon, that you see here in the middle, will be the new Deputy Dean for Faculty and Research starting July 1st. And Michelle has played several key roles in the school already because she was the head of the EFNA area. EFNA stands for Economics, Finance, and Accounting. And if you may remember, the school is split in terms of faculty in 3 areas: Management Science, EFNA, and BPS area, where, for example, the TIES group is. She was also instrumental in restructuring our undergraduate offerings and our undergraduate program, which actually, I'm going to say a little bit more about that, but this restructuring has helped the program do really well. Rodrigo is already at the dean's office, serving in a new role that we created, and he's deputy dean for degree programs, teaching and learning, starting in July 1st. Some of you had Rodrigo in your accounting course, and I used to teach the same semester as Rodrigo, and he was one tough act to follow, let me tell you this. Once Rodrigo was in the classroom, the rest of us looked like a bunch of jokers. It's true. So this year, Rodrigo is not teaching, and that's how I got to get a teaching award, because there was no Rodrigo. Otherwise, forget it. But Rodrigo truly is wonderful, and wonderful really working with him at the dean's office. He was serving as associate dean for teaching and learning, and we basically enhanced his portfolio to also be in charge of degree programs, teaching and learning. And like Michelle, he's also a professor of accounting. And last but not least, maybe you saw an email that I sent of course, it feels like a whirlwind. So I think it was early March or end of February, something like that, to announce that as MIT Sloan, we are playing an important role in one of the 3 areas of Sally Kornbruch's initiatives for the Institute, which is really climate, environment, sustainability. And as a result, we created the Climate Policy Center, and the associate dean for that initiative is Chris Knittel. And I think we have a few people in the room who know him because they took his applied economics course. Is that correct? Is my brain still working? Great. Okay. And so he will be serving as the associate dean and director for the MIT Climate Policy Center, which is the initiative that we are doing here at Sloan. And also as the director of what's called CEPER, again, initials, but it's the Center for Energy and Environmental Policy Research, which resides within the MIT initiative, which is one other big initiative at MIT that has to do with energy, and here is about policy. So these are some of the faculty leadership changes that are happening. And of course, I think that it would be really a remiss on my part to not really profusely thank Dave. First, because he gave me the opportunity to be up here. And I joke with all my colleagues that we should all take turns serving as interim deans because you get to really understand how this institute works. You really get to have a good view of how the school works. And so I really thank Dave for that. I wish that I didn't thank him under the circumstances because, of course, as I say, he fell sick. He found out on a Wednesday. The provost let me know on a Thursday, and I started on a Monday. But there's nothing like the present. But I want to acknowledge some of the many contributions of Dave because he stayed in this office for 16 plus years. And he did a number of wonderful things to bring the school to what it is today. And first, I want to start by, the area of the school and the buildings of the school really do not look the same for those of you that were here 20 years before. And, I remember very soon after he came, the E62 building opened. That was happening in 2010 when we moved offices. Just to give you an idea, till then, my office used to sit across the street where is the Dewey Library. Definitely a huge change, I must say, both inside, in the windows, in the furniture, in everything. Then the renovation of E60, where the dean's office sits, and where I invite everybody to come visit me when you can. And then the renovation of E52. And what is E52? For those of you that remember the faculty club, from those that go back just a few years. And, and for those of you that are a bit more recent, where Sandberg Center sits, those of you that had to suffer with the rest of us through teaching through COVID, it was those 2 floors that we held classes back then. Maybe a traumatic experience back then, but a fun memory right now, I must say, because we all got to bond. So a lot of new buildings that you see that bring basically much more in the 21st century, the Sloan School. But he also helped launch several degree programs, starting with 2008 with a Master of Finance program, a very successful program that effectively it has 16 applications for 1 seat, doing really well. Then the Executive MBA program, yay, we have some people from that program here, yes. Nice to see you. And I remember that as faculty, we were very skeptic back then when we were talking about launching this program. We thought, are we going to compromise quality? Oh my God. And I remember a colleague told me, oh, you really enjoy these students, Georgia, you should teach them. And so I said, I'll give it a try and co-teach with another colleague the 2nd year of the operation of the program. I loved it so much that I kept teaching ever since. Even now, as a dean, I taught a core class 2 sections. That's how much I like it. Ben, I see you. Okay. Then the Masters of Business Analytics program that got launched in 2016. Again, something that I know a little bit about because I played also a big role in that program. That, really it's a 12-month program that trains students in analytics, AI, and it's a very rigorous program. I have no idea how these students make it through this program. And I don't know if Basim is in the room. Okay, but for example, his son was in the very first class, so he would know something about it. But very importantly, also a much more broad global engagement of MIT Sloan, starting with 2013 and the launch of the Latin America office. Is Maria here? Okay, no. And of course, the Asia School of Business that we helped launch in 2015, and the ASEAN office that I always mispronounce, I think, that I know I'm excited to travel with Kathy in October and the other people in this room and basically launch that office, because this is a region that's really thriving and there are so many opportunities. Although the office will be in Bangkok, Thailand, it's meant to really have activities in the entire region. And of course, I don't want to miss the centers and initiatives that got launched during his deanship. For example, the Golub Center for Finance and Policy, the Consumer Finance Initiative, the Lab for Financial Engineering, the MIT Initiative on the Digital Economy, the Food Supply Chain Analytics and Sensing, the Health Systems Initiative, and the Sustainability Initiative. So many initiatives, new buildings, and degree programs. So I really, he's not here, but I really want to take the chance and thank him by giving him a round of applause. So it's a privilege for me, actually, to follow the footsteps and inherit such a great state of a school. Of course, the elephant in the room is, there is the word interim in front of my, and of course, there is a search committee that's doing a full-blown search for finding the permanent dean. And the chairs of this committee is Andrew Law, that I'm sure many of you or all of you know, and Kate Kellogg. So Andy is actually a professor of finance. He's the director of the Lab for Financial Engineering. And Kate is a professor of management and innovation in the work and organizational studies in the BPS area in the school. And of course, there are subcommittees also that are formed. There's a subcommittee that is about connecting with alumni. There's another subcommittee that connects with students, another subcommittee that connects with staff. And the whole idea is to give recommendations to the president, the provost, and the corporation, either by the end of 2024 or early in 2025. And then, they will give a few names. And like in the corporate world, right, you have a new CEO, you don't just give one name, you give more than one. And then after a process of interview, the final person will be chosen. So this is just to give you an idea of what is happening in that space. I'm sure you are all wondering if you're not aware. Let's look at other updates. And let's look at the portfolio of programs. I think that in a way, I would call the principle in finance that's called diversification. And it's the same principle that we have followed here. If you sort of look here in the middle, you will remember that the more traditional Sloan that some of you may remember was the MBA program and the Sloan Fellows. That now, 30 years ago or so, the LFM program was created, later was renamed in the late 2000s as LGO. So from leaders of manufacturing, leaders for global operations. Who is an LGO alum? Raise your hand. Oh, nice to see you guys. I see a former student of mine over there. And, and of course, as I mentioned, later the EMBA office, program, that this makes our executive degree programs with 350 executives in all programs. The MBA is 20 months versus the Sloan Fellows is 12 months. One is residential and the other is part-time. The master's programs with the MPhil, the MBAN, and MSMS. And of course, the two PhD programs that report to MIT Sloan, the traditional PhD Sloan that you all know, but also the Operations Research Center that is right across the street that reports to the Sloan School as well. And of course, I don't want to remiss the restructuring of our undergraduate program that now has, in a way, 3 potential tracks that the students can take. And one is the traditional management track, the business analytics track, and the finance track. And what's very interesting about that is that currently it makes the 4th most popular major at MIT. Who would expect that? A lot of people get dual degrees, of course, at MIT, but that doesn't matter because that has brought the visibility of Sloan in the undergraduate space and increased its footprint much more. So you can see here at all levels the whole fleet of programs that we have. As we mentioned, and as I mentioned in late February, I announced our launch for the Climate Policy Center with a few key players. One being Chris Schmittlein that I already mentioned, but of course John Sterman that many of you know from the beer game, from system dynamics and so forth. And he sort of simulation models that allows you to play with different policies. You know, how about afforestation? How about increasing the footprint of electric vehicles and so forth? And then this allows you to play with it and see what would be the impacts in various ways. And then, of course, a person that we actually stole, if you like, from Berkeley is Catherine Wolfram. And she's currently a professor of applied economics. But she has served formerly as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Climate Energy Economics and being in the US Treasury. So she brings a lot of experience. So she will be a big part of this initiative. And what I want to say here is that Sloan effectively put its money where its mouth is and endowed from our own endowment funds in order to launch this center. And this is one of the key initiatives of Sally Kornbluth, the MIT president. So we are very excited on this. Officially, it's launching in July 1st. But I know Chris has already been traveling to Washington, D.C., and he talks to people from both aisles, just to be clear, and not just one part of the aisle, which is, I think, is very important to get things done right. I mentioned a little bit that in the ASEAN region, we are basically launching an office. And although it's going to be located in Thailand and in Bangkok, with many people from our alumni playing an important role in this, including our alumni and president of the Bangkok Bank being one, but many, many others. I'm personally very excited to go to the region. But we already have launched research in this area, and I know that Dina, with Professor Recep Levy and Karen Zhang, they already took a trip. I don't know how she's doing it. She got off the plane yesterday, and she's here, and she looks all fresh. I don't know. I mean, I look like a bunch of, yeah. But so already the faculty research is getting launched. I met the president 2 days ago. And we talked about other follow-up research that faculty could do and have an impact with the area. And of course, a lot of action learning courses and activities that our students will do in this region at all programs, whether it is the MBA or the Executive MBA or the Sloan Fellows and many others. I think action learning is celebrating its 25 years of operation, which is pretty remarkable. And I think that it's correct to say that we are the first school to launch action learning here. And of course, at MIT Sloan, we do. It's not so much about talking, it's more about doing. Other schools do well in talking, but we believe in doing. And we hope that we will engage the whole region and we will really make an impact as a school in that area. Of course, I really want to thank you for the annual fund. And I want to thank you for the annual fund, and this is showing the contributions over the years from fiscal year 2018 to today and our projections for this year. And we've already reached 4.8 million, which is pretty remarkable, I would say. And I know that about 1/3 is coming from reunion gifts. And what this allows us actually is, first, we can put these funds to immediate use. We don't wait for distributions and so forth to come. We use them within the year. That's point number one. The second one, it gives us flexibility as we are seeing what are the needs of the school, whether it is about supporting students, whether it means about career advising. It's a changing market. And for our MBA and other student population to help them, we need to have that flexibility. And the annual fund helps us, basically. And also, it's about community. So this is why this is very important, and that's why I'm showing the slide. And since already we are very close to the goal, and since this room has contributed a lot, I just want to say thank you, actually.
Working together for the last 18 years, but we thought that I might ask her a couple of questions for all of you to get to know her a little bit better. And while we make our way over here, so I'll put you in the hot seat, Georgia, if that's
yes.
okay.
No, it's my
Reverse
time
the
to be
roles.
roasted.
I should have let Marcus do this.
That will be interesting.
But just so all of you are aware and warned, there will be a lightning round at the end of this where we'll ask for audience participation from Georgia. But for now, Georgia, you joined the community in 1998, and you've had lots of different experiences and leadership roles. And so I was wondering if you could share with the audience a bit about your background and some of those roles at Sloan, but across campus as well.
So there's a debate on when I joined this community. Because I have been saying I became a tenure-track faculty in 1998, and the head of HR says, no, you actually joined this community, and our database says you joined in 1993. It's not 26 years, it's 31. But how did this exactly happen? Because, somehow I got trained from early on to be asked on a Thursday to step in something on a Monday. And what am I referring to? I was a PhD student at Brown University, and my advisor passed away very, very suddenly from cancer. And at that point, the department came back to me, it was a Thursday, and asked me, you have to teach her class. We don't have anybody else to teach the class, and you are starting on Monday. And then I did my PhD here at MIT. So that was my first way of getting trained to step very fast into a role. Mm-hmm. And so back then, I had the chance to be teaching undergraduates the operations research topic here at MIT Sloan in '93. And why was I chosen to do this? Because I was already doing it as a PhD student, teaching a similar course at Brown University. So that's how I actually got to MIT. Now, I would say that as I officially started as an assistant professor in '98, I started teaching MBAs. There are many people in the room that probably were my students and took my class, and I'm going to quiz you soon about it. But I taught DMD for the core for 14 years, and then I was pulled to teach the EMBAs that I have still been teaching, minus a sabbatical year that I took in 2013, 2014. But more importantly, it was in 2005 that after I got tenure that I started playing leadership roles at the Institute, first by becoming head of the groups, the OR and statistics group, and then the OM group for about 9 years. And actually, this gave me visibility on how the three areas of the school work, how they interact. I was proud to hire several faculty in these groups. I was the first female in both of these groups, and so now we have many more, some that have actually made tenure and some that will make tenure soon. So I'm actually very proud of that, because that's a contribution. But then in about 2009, I actually transitioned into the role of faculty director for the LGO program. At that point, the title of the program has changed from LFM to LGO. LGO stands for Leaders for Global Operations, and it's a program that students spend 24 months getting 2 degrees. One is an MBA degree, and the other is a master's degree in one of the engineering departments. I don't know how these guys do it in 24 months, because at MIT, the word E doesn't stand for easy, whether it's the MBA program or the LGO or any other program. And I know that, it's a very demanding program, and these students need to get admitted both in their engineering department and at Sloan and at LGO. But that actually allowed me to start working with the engineering departments at MIT as well as Sloan and try to bridge the two and bring them together. In 2016, I basically designed the analytics certificate that later led also to the Masters of Business Analytics, and that was a very exciting time. In 2017, I actually became the MBA program faculty director. Many students here in the room from that program. But what I like about this is the impact that we can have right away. We teach them material over the weekend because these are people that have full-time jobs and very demanding full-time jobs. I remember Sophia, she was traveling from Russia, actually. I thought she was a lunatic, that she was taking the plane on Wednesday or Thursday to take 2 full days of classes on Friday and Saturday, and then to take the plane to go back to Russia. I am in awe. And she was holding a job at the same time. And Sophia is one example, but there are many others. I think Marina was traveling to Switzerland, if I remember correctly, for a while. And Kevin to New York, and other people that I see in this room here. But the point that we like this is we talk about principled, innovative leaders. That's exactly what these students are. And they are at the stage of their career that they can actually do this because they have been out in the profession for many, many years. In 2019, I know this seems to be going forever, actually. I became the co-director of the Operations Research Center, and that's a program that's between MIT Sloan. It's an interdepartmental program, actually, that spans all schools. It has about 100 students, PhD and masters, so mostly PhD students. And for those of you who are EMBA students, these were your TAs. And the Schwarzman College of Computing was formed around the same time as I started as a co-director. And so one of my first jobs was to make sure that since the Schwarzman College was about computing and AI, and that's what the ORC is about, that the ORC becomes part of the Schwarzman College. It didn't take much effort because the ORC is actually a jewel for the institute that everybody recognizes. So that allowed me to become part of the leadership at the Schwarzman College. And a few years later, I became the associate dean for the Schwarzman College. And that's an effort that tries, as I said, to bring computing in teaching, in research, across campus. And it allowed me to interact with all schools on campus, because the whole point is we have to bring all the schools together. And that's what brought me to today, basically, when the provost asked me to step in this role. And I'm going to stop here because I've been going on forever.
No. You can see why the provost called Georgia to ask her to step into this role. Leadership across MIT is not easy, and she makes it look easy. So with that, you've been in the dean's office now for nearly 4 months, and you've had all of these experiences across MIT. So any initial observations, hopefully not a ton of surprises, but observations about the dean's office and that in the last 4 months?
So I would say positive surprises. The first one is, yes, I know we have alumni that care, but I didn't realize the point that the alumni care. And there are people that come to my office and they ask, how can I help? And that's actually pretty big. And it's not that before I thought that the alumni didn't care, but I hadn't realized the degree, and I hadn't realized actually the synergies as well. My analogy is that somebody told me, here's a private luxurious plane. It doesn't fly at 15,000 feet that you are flying so far. It flies up at 40, 45. You have this luxury plane for a year or so, and you can fly there, and you can watch the view. So this is exactly my analogy for this role, I have to say. The second thing that I hadn't realized is how close the 6 deans work together for the 6 schools. there is this thing that's called Academic Council that we meet together on Tuesdays. And that has allowed a lot of synergies between the schools. So, and we are exploring other initiatives like that. And it is because I see these guys every Tuesday. We take selfies together that we post on Facebook. But it's like a community that actually works closely together. And also, you know, to be honest with you, and very importantly to me, what I discovered is that Dave took what I call a family business, and in 60 years, it made it a first-class professional organization. And I really mean this. So, I mean, getting to see this is pretty amazing.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing. And maybe before we go to the lightning round, one last question. Obviously, you love MIT. You've spent a lot of time here. What makes you proud about MIT and MIT Sloan?
Oof, there are so many things that make me proud. Well, first I would say all the students that we have from all the programs. We have amazing programs, actually. And I showed you the fleet. So I'm proud of all these programs and the students. I'm actually proud of the faculty. I'm actually meeting faculty because, again, I'm using this opportunity to discover the research and the activities that our faculty do, because that allows me to have a vision that I will pass to whoever sits permanently in that office. So that's another thing I'm really proud of. But I'm also proud of the staff, actually. And you guys are pretty amazing. The third floor of E60 has an amazing group of people. They have supported me, like, beyond belief, I have to say. So they make me look good, but they put the hard work. So thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. We call it the dream team, so thank
Yes.
you so much. And now maybe I could turn it over to you to quiz the
Yes.
audience.
Now I'm going to quiz the audience. Here's for the fun part, class participation. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to ask you questions. So let's start. I want to learn about you guys, and I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. I'm not going to ask you to stand up. I thought about that. But maybe not everybody would appreciate standing up, other than these two guys here that exercise regularly, and a few others, I'm sure. So first question, raise your hand. How many of you were in my class when you were here at Sloan and you remember that you were? Let's see. Ooh, oh, I have some people up there. Okay. Second question. Who traveled less than 5 miles to be here today? Less than. I don't mean from your hotel, okay? Okay. Now let me reverse the question. Who traveled more than 5,000 miles to be here today? Ooh. All right. How many of you have experienced at least one career pivot since you left MIT Sloan? Wow. Now that's a wow. Wow. Who met your life partner while you were here at Sloan? Wow. Okay, nice. How many of you started your own company? Wow. Wow, now that's a round of applause. Yay. How many of you who started your own company, you started it with a fellow Sloanee? Okay, we need more. Do any of you have a relative who also graduated from MIT or from MIT Sloan or is a current student? Yay, all right. Okay, so oops, I hope this kind of gives you a little bit of a sense of each other also, not just me learning about you, but also of each other. But I wouldn't let you go if I didn't give you a little bit of a homework to live with. So the homework is going to have 3 assignments. Okay. The first assignment is I'm going to ask you to support a current Sloan student by please signing up at the Advisor Hub. This will allow you to provide career advice, share jobs and internships with the CBO to hire Sloanees. So that's assignment number 1. Hopefully it's not a bad one and a difficult one. The second one, some of your colleagues were not able to make it this weekend. So what I want you to do is find at least one colleague from Sloan and share the 1 or 2 most impressive things you learned this weekend with your classmates so they can feel as if they attended reunion. And the next one is to please make a class gift next year, even if it's a non-reunion year. Because having looked at the school and how it works, we wouldn't be able to do the exciting things that we do if it wasn't for that. So that's your homework, a 3-part homework. Thank you for listening to me.